Welcome to another session on Physio TV Classroom, which is on evaluation of work capacity assessment and return to work assessment. So as we all understand that these are two different elements, work capacity assessment has to do with how much or how well the worker is conditioned to do the work on daily basis, and return to work assessment has to do with about after an injury, how exactly we can help the worker as a team to return to work. So I'm Dr. Suroshree Mitra, Professor and HOD at Community Physiotherapy Department, Sancheti Institute of Orthopaedics and Rehabilitation College of Physiotherapy. And we will be starting with the session. A return to work has to be a teamwork. So that just means that it's not just the physiotherapists, but it is a whole lot of work which has to be done by a entire team. But here, since I am a physiotherapist, so we are here to discuss our specific role in work capacity assessment and return to work assessment. So with this, we begin our session for today, and the objectives of the session will be what is work capacity and factors affecting the capacity, assessment of work capacity. So as physios, what is our domain and how exactly we can do that, and what is return to work assessment. So physical work capacity is it refers to the capacity for energy output. So obviously, like any other activity, work which is done on daily basis by a worker has to do with the energy output. So physical work capacity is that energy output which is required during the at the workplace during the duration of, say, sometimes 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours of work. This will depend primarily on the energy available to the worker in the form of food and oxygen, and the sum of energy provided by oxygen dependent and oxygen independent processes. So we know about the aerobic and the anaerobic systems in the body. So obviously, this energy availability is primarily going to depend on the availability of the energy sources and also the energy output. And the rate of energy consumption during physical work is the sum of the basal energy consumption and the metabolic cost of the work in terms of energy consumption. So it is also the basal energy as well as the additional energy which is required to do daily routine work at workplace. And work capacity depends on the ability to take up the oxygen and deliver it to the cells for the use, and the ability to work at a higher rate is associated with high oxygen uptake. So at times, if the worker is exposed to more demands than usual, then that capacity also has to be built up during the conditioning so that these demands are being met. So what are these factors which affect the work capacity? Now, this is very, very important because a lot of time as physiotherapists, we would only focus on the personal factors. But the environmental factors which affect the work capacity are equally important, as you can see. So personal factors, that is the factors which are present in the worker himself or herself, is of course starting with the age, the weight of the worker, gender of the worker, any addiction of alcohol or tobacco, the lifestyle, which is active or non-active. By that we mean whether the worker is otherwise in any physical activity or exercise program, is if he or she is also undergoing any training or any sport related activities, of course the nutritional status and the motivation of the worker. Now here, as you can see, that some personal factors are modifiable, like say lifestyle, nutritional status, motivation, and some of these factors are non-modifiable. For example, the age of the worker, the gender of the worker. So this is something which is not under our control, but we need to record because there are some associations of the capacity with regards to age and the gender, but then rest of it, which are modifiable, has to be taken utmost care of. Now, apart from the internal or the personal factors, there are some factors which are present in the environment. So as you can see that atmospheric pollution, indoor air quality, if suppose somebody is working is a desk job worker, so the indoor air quality is also important. Atmospheric pollution, say a traffic police or a rickshaw driver or someone construction workers who are working in the open environment. So the pollution is also can be a factor which can affect the capacity of the worker. Ventilation, so improper ventilation can affect the capacity of the worker. Altitude, so as we all know that higher altitude training is not just required for sports, but also for any demands of the work. So obviously the altitude can also have an effect on work capacity, any noise, and extreme heat or cold. So this is a graph which we usually read when we are talking of exercise physiology, but actually this graph holds true also for the work capacity or the work capacity assessment of the worker. So as we know that there is going to be a physiological response to any activity. It can be exercise, it can be work. So what happens is after the initial period of the work, if it is a heavy, if it falls under heavy work, then after the warm-up period, there is a steady state which is reached where task demands match energy output. And when work ceases, when the worker stops the work, the physiological variables are supposed to return to resting levels. So this holds true, this graph holds true for work which increases your heart rate on daily basis, which is where manual material handling or heavy work is in the picture. So as a physiotherapist, these are the methods by which we can assess the physical work capacity. That is, if the worker is associated with any heavy work. So there's the Dogless Bag Method, there's Boggs rating of perceived exertion, which we commonly known as RP scale, estimation of maximum oxygen consumption with the help of VO2 max, and cardiovascular capacity assessment, direct or indirect assessment. So we will just read or we will just discuss about the Dogless Bag Method, where the worker inhales air from the atmosphere and exhales it through a mask connected by tubing to a large bag. So the entire time while he is doing the activity, he inhales the air from the atmosphere, and every time he has to exhale, he will do it through the mask connected. As the subject carries out the task, that is the work, the initially empty bag is filled with expired air. And after about 50 liters of air has been collected in that mass, the task is terminated. The activity or the workers, that particular task is terminated. Or the expired air is diverted to a second empty bag. The volume of air in the filled bag is calculated and its gaseous composition is analyzed using electronic gas analyzers. So as you can see, this is a very advanced method. It requires an advanced equipment. So if this is like the ideal method, but not in every scenario it will be possible to assess the capacity, the aerobic capacity by this method. So the other methods can be box rating of perceived scale. So before that, I'm sorry, I skipped this slide. So the oxygen content of the air in the bag can be compared with that of the atmosphere to determine the amount of oxygen metabolized by the subject. And if the time taken for the subject to fill this bag, the rate of oxygen uptake can be calculated from it. From this, you can see from this table that this is the normal energy cost of some of the daily activities. That is, for sitting, the kilojoules per minute of oxygen which is required is 1.25, or energy, sorry, is required is 1.25. So same way kneeling, squatting. So that's why, as you will understand, that this particular method is a mandate. First, if you have this equipment, and second, when it is a heavy worker or industrial workers. Now, this scale we all are well versed with because we anyways use it in daily routine, and it's an excellent scale when it comes to perception of your worker. So the box scale has the advantage of being a global measure. The ratings are influenced by all demands in work situations. So even if a person is not doing a frequent manual material handling, if the person is doing infrequent manual material handling, even then you can use this scale, or on a daily basis too. So high positive correlations has been seen with the heart rate and this scale. Therefore, it's a very widely used outcome measure or scale for checking the aerobic work capacity. and it is not used as a substitute for the objective measures like heart rate and oxygen consumption. So this is something which we will use when we cannot objectively measure heart rate or through Dogless Bag Method, the oxygen consumption. But still, since the correlation has been found, you can still use this method. And now there is a formula through which you can, once you have the VO2, I mean, to estimate the VO2 max during the work, of course, not otherwise. So this, by using this formula, VO2 max estimation can be made. So generally a person can work at 40% of their VO2 max for 8 hours. So therefore, if the oxygen consumption exceeds 40%, then the task should not be performed continuously without rest. So obviously, you cannot change the entire job profile, but keeping in mind that since the oxygen consumption is exceeding 40% of the VO2 max, the task has to be given pause after some time. So there has to be rest in between the task. So this is how we decide the rest allowance with this formula, where small w is length of the working period, small b is oxygen uptake, and small s is standard uptake for continuous work. So obviously, as you can see that even for this formula, you will need a very objective measure, which will help you with the help of VO2 analyzer to assess the VO2 of the person. Now, return to work assessment and work capacity assessment has a very direct correlation. So when you want to assess the work capacity, we do an FCA, functional capacity assessment. And when we want to do a return to work assessment, even then we would want to do a re-FCA. So as you can see, these are the components of functional capacity assessment, and also for the return to work assessment. So there are some subjective assessments, objective and functional testing. So all this is known as the biological assessment. So what is done in this? In the subjective assessment, there will be some checklists used where the perception of the worker is being taken care of, that if the person finds, or if the worker finds the tasks or the different job demand, after doing the job demand analysis, the demands to be very, very difficult. So then we have to keep that in mind, because that is very important. If the worker's perception is negative or semi-negative about any particular task in the work. Objective assessments, like just some time back, I discussed about the aerobic endurance assessment. Same way, there are many other objective assessments, if, for example, conditioning related, and same way functional testing is also being done. So the flexibility, strength, endurance, whatever other demands related to cognitive demands of related to the work is being assessed in under the biological assessment of FCA, functional capacity assessment. And apart from that, for specifically for return to work, these two components are being added. That is the last, second last and the last one. First one is the patient reported disability. So once the worker has sustained any injury, and before return to work or during return to work assessment, patient reported disability is very, very important, where how the society looks at the disability, even that is taken into consideration, and a psychological assessment of the worker, that if he or she is feeling negative or semi-negative about returning to work. So now this is a very, very interesting model where we can analyze based on this model given by Aduro, that where our worker lies in terms of readiness to join back the work after injury. So as you can see that the box where it is written 1 to the base of the pyramid on the left hand side, that is when the worker is still not ready to go back to work. So to maintain productivity and maximize individual well-being while working from home, so the person is being advised working from home in the initial phase. We can say that the worker has reached the second level of this readiness model, and it is also known as the safe zone or of return to work, where ensure physical health and safety by setting a protocol for return to work. So the protocol for the return to work, so the clearance is being set, which includes both temperature screening, remote monitoring. So while the person is working at home himself or herself, so the remote monitoring of the vitals can be done, and including the temperature screenings. Now, the third stage of this readiness model is when the worker starts getting a sense of well-being. So this ensures mental well-being and psychological safety through the provision and tracking of mental and emotional health programs. So during the second stage, that is the transition from the second to third stage, certain wellness programs are being incorporated for the return to work or for the injured worker, so that he or she reaches the stage. And once he or she reaches the stage, then we say that they have reached the stage of that is the third stage. And now in the fourth and the fifth stage, it is actually where the worker is going to at the workplace. So focusing on the work again at the fourth stage, where we say that it is the engaged state, where the worker is being given to renew the focus on mindset and resilience, purpose and contribution, and relationships and community. So it's not just the physical well-being, it is also the association, the social and the psychological well-being is also taken into consideration. And finally, where the worker reaches the kinetic performance stage, which is the full potential unlock stage. So a sustainable approach to unlocking human performance through holistic well-being and growth. So here the key word is sustenance. So we have to ensure that when the worker has reached, or when the worker is in transition from engaged to kinetic performance, how to ensure that the performance stays sustained. So every time the human performance has to be reassessed, and whichever domain, be it biological, psychological, or social, at the workplace, whichever domain may cause again a deterioration in the work capacity of the worker, that has to be taken care of. Now, the details of conditioning and hardening in terms of return to work will be taken in the subsequent sessions of Physio TV. With this, I will end today's session, and the details of how these assessments are done in terms of conditioning and hardening, that we will see in the next subsequent sessions. Thank you very much.